I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to find himself in this situation. You know, the ones you read about on those late-night Reddit threads, posts filled with rage, heartbreak, and betrayal. But here I am, sitting on my couch, staring at the wall, realizing that everything I thought I knew about my life might be a lie. My name is Daniel. I'm 38, married to Claire for the past 12 years. We have a daughter, Sophie, she's 9, the light of my life. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? We had our little rituals, our inside jokes, our familiar routines. I work as a software engineer from home, which means I get to pick up Sophie from school and help her with homework while Claire, who works as an event planner, is often out handling clients and late-night corporate functions. Claire has always been the outgoing one. The kind of woman who can walk into a room and have everyone's attention within seconds. It's one of the things I loved about her. She had energy, life. But over the past couple of months, something had shifted. At first, it was little things. She started dressing up more. Not just for big events, but even when she was going to run errands. A little extra makeup, new dresses, perfume that smelled too expensive for casual grocery runs. She got secretive about her phone, keeping it face down at all times, her fingers quick to swipe away notifications when I walked by. Then, there was the laughter. Not the kind we used to share over wine in our living room, but the kind she had when she thought I wasn't listening. I'd hear her giggling softly in the kitchen, whispering into the phone, and when I'd ask, "Who was that?" she'd just smile and say, "Just a friend from work." But the thing that gnawed at me the most? The way she started looking at me. Not with love, not even with frustration, but with indifference. Like I had become background noise in her life. I told myself I was overthinking. That marriages go through phases. That maybe she was just stressed with work. Until last night. Last night, Claire came home late again. She was supposed to be at a networking dinner. She kissed me on the cheek, muttered something about being tired, and went straight to the shower. I sat there, watching her purse sitting on the counter, my heart pounding in my chest. I never snooped on my wife before. I never had a reason to. But something in me snapped. I stood up, walked over, and unzipped the bag with shaky hands. That's when I saw it. A receipt. A hotel receipt. Paid in cash. Checked in at 7:45 p.m. Checked out at 11:30 p.m. I felt my stomach drop. My hands trembled as I put it back exactly how I found it, forcing myself to breathe. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. But as I lay in bed that night, Claire sleeping peacefully beside me, I knew. Something was very, very wrong. And I was going to find out exactly what it was. The hotel receipt sat in my mind like a landmine, ready to explode at any second. I barely slept that night, staring at the ceiling while Claire breathed evenly beside me, her body turned away. My fingers twitched at my side, wanting to shake her awake, demand an explanation, but I wasn't ready, not yet. I needed proof. Real proof. Not a single slip of paper that she could easily explain away with some half-assed excuse. So I waited. The next morning, I played it cool. I kissed Sophie on the forehead, packed her lunch, and waved her off to school like it was just another day. Claire hummed as she poured herself a cup of coffee, dressed in her usual work attire, blazer, heels, perfectly styled hair. She looked beautiful. The kind of beautiful that once made me proud, but now just made me sick. She had no idea what I knew. Busy day? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Yeah. Event prep all day, then a dinner with the sponsors. Late night again, I'm afraid. There it was. A lie. I nodded like I believed her, sipping my coffee. Want me to pick up Sophie from school? That would be great. She smiled, leaned in, and kissed me softly on the lips. I love you. I almost laughed. Instead, I swallowed my rage and watched her leave, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor as she walked out the door. The second she was gone, I got to work. I wasn't a private investigator, but I wasn't an idiot either. I worked in software. I knew my way around tech better than most. Claire had her routines, and if she was meeting someone, I could track her movements without her knowing. The first thing I did was check our phone records. We shared an account, and I had access to her call logs. Most of it looked normal: work contacts, friends, Sophie's school. But one number kept appearing. Over and over again. Late at night. During the day when she was working. An unregistered number. Not a business line. Not a friend I recognized. I copied it down and did a quick search, no results. Likely a personal cell. My stomach churned. Next, I checked the car. Claire never let anyone else drive her SUV, so she never thought twice about leaving it unlocked in the garage. I slipped inside, heart pounding, and checked the center console. Receipts. Fast food. Gas stations. And another hotel receipt, crumpled at the bottom. Same hotel. Different date. She'd been there before. I clenched my jaw, gripping the slip of paper so hard it nearly tore in my fingers. This wasn't just some one-time thing. It was happening. Over and over. I sat there for a long time, the weight of it settling into my bones. I wasn't some clueless husband who missed the signs. I saw them all. I had just refused to believe them. But now, there was no denying it. Claire was cheating on me. The plan. Confronting her immediately would be a mistake. She'd lie. She'd gaslight me. She'd twist the truth so much I'd start questioning my own reality. I needed undeniable proof. Something that, when I finally confronted her, she wouldn't be able to worm her way out of. I spent the rest of the day setting up what I needed. First, I installed a GPS tracker on her car. Nothing illegal, just a simple app that linked to my phone, allowing me to see exactly where she went. Second, I went through our old home security cameras. We had them installed when Sophie was born, mostly for safety, but they also had a live feed feature. Claire had no idea I still had access to them. The camera in the driveway showed her car pulling in late at night, way past when she said she was working. The one in the hallway? Showed her tiptoeing inside, checking her reflection in the mirror, fixing her hair. She wasn't coming home from work. She was coming home from him. I clenched my fists, rage bubbling under the surface. I wasn't an idiot. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't going to be made a fool of. The stakeout. That night, after I put Sophie to bed, I waited. Claire was out again, at her so-called dinner. But I knew better now. I watched the GPS tracker as her car moved across the city, heading straight for the same goddamn hotel. I grabbed my keys. I had to see it with my own eyes. The hotel was a mid-range chain, nothing fancy, nothing seedy, just discreet. The kind of place business people used for quick stays. Or, apparently, married women who wanted to screw around behind their husbands' backs. I parked a few spaces away, keeping my head down. And then, I saw her. Claire. Stepping out of her car, dressed in something far too elegant for a business dinner. And then, him. A man I didn't recognize. Tall. Well-dressed. Confident. He walked up to her, smirking, and placed a hand on her lower back as they entered the hotel together. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My entire marriage, everything we built, was a goddamn joke. I sat there for hours, waiting. At 11:27 p.m., Claire walked out alone, adjusting her dress, smoothing her hair. I took a picture. Then another. Then one more for good measure. My proof. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. Claire was cheating. And now, it was time to make her pay. The breaking point. When she walked through the door, she acted normal. "Hey, babe," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "Long night." I stared at her. She didn't even look guilty. That's what made me the angriest. She smiled, leaned in to kiss me. And I stepped back. How was the dinner? I asked, voice cold. She blinked, tilting her head. It was fine. Why? I pulled out my phone, opened the picture, and turned the screen toward her. Her face went pale. And then, for the first time in our marriage, Claire was speechless. You want to tell me the truth now, I said, my voice shaking with barely contained fury, or should I keep digging? She opened her mouth. Then closed it. Then, she whispered, I can explain. I laughed. Actually laughed. Can you? I asked. Because I'd love to hear it. She just stood there, frozen, eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. For the first time, she was afraid of me. Good. I wasn't done yet. Claire stood there, her mouth slightly open, her hands fidgeting at her sides like she was calculating her next move. But I wasn't giving her any time to think. I stepped closer, still holding my phone out with the picture displayed, the one of her walking out of the hotel alone, adjusting her dress like she had just finished screwing some guy whose name I didn't even know. Say something, I demanded. She swallowed hard. Daniel, it's not what it looks like. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh? Because it looks a hell of a lot like my wife sneaking out of a hotel after lying to my face about working late. So, please, Claire, enlighten me. What exactly am I looking at? She hesitated. I could see the gears turning in her head, her eyes darting around the room, looking for an escape route. Claire was good with words, she always had been. The kind of woman who could talk her way out of a speeding ticket or charm a refund out of a customer service rep even when she was in the wrong. But this time? There was no way out. She sighed, running a hand through her perfectly styled hair. I was meeting a friend. A friend. I repeated it flatly. Yes. Someone I used to work with. Cut the bullshit, Claire. I snapped, my voice echoing through the kitchen. She flinched. Upstairs, Sophie was asleep, oblivious to the nuclear bomb going off in her parents' marriage downstairs. I took a deep breath, lowering my voice, but the rage was still there, simmering beneath the surface. You don't meet a friend at a hotel in the middle of the night, Claire. And you sure as hell don't lie to your husband about it. Try again. Silence. For the first time, she looked cornered. And I wasn't about to let her slither out of it. How long? I asked. She blinked. What? I clenched my jaw. How long have you been cheating? Daniel. How long, Claire? Her lip trembled. And then she whispered, 6 months. The air left my lungs. 6 months. Half a year. While I had been at home taking care of Sophie, making dinner, being the husband she pretended to love, she had been sneaking around behind my back. I stepped back like I had been physically struck. Who is he? She closed her eyes, like she thought if she squeezed them tight enough, this moment would disappear. It doesn't matter. Who the hell is he? She hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. You know him, I said, realization hitting me like a punch to the gut. Claire stayed silent. I shook my head. Jesus Christ. It's someone I know. Her lip trembled, and finally, she whispered, Matt. Everything inside me froze. Matt. Matt, my friend. Matt, the guy I had invited over for barbecues. The guy who had stood in my house, eating my food, laughing at my jokes, playing with my daughter like he was some innocent family friend. I felt sick. Say something, Claire whispered, her voice barely audible. I let out a hollow laugh. What the hell do you want me to say, Claire? Oh, no big deal, you've just been screwing my friend behind my back for 6 months while I've been raising our daughter and paying the bills? Would that make you feel better? Tears welled in her eyes. I never meant for this to happen. Spare me, I snapped. She wiped at her tears, shaking her head. I was lonely, Daniel. You've been so distant lately, so closed off. I needed to feel wanted. I stared at her, barely able to contain the absolute fury rising inside me. Oh, so this is my fault? No. I mean. Because, Claire, let's be crystal clear here, I was home every damn night. I was taking care of Sophie. I was working my ass off to make sure you didn't have to stress about anything. Meanwhile, you were out screwing Matt in a damn hotel room. She buried her face in her hands. I know, I screwed up. You destroyed our marriage, I corrected. Silence. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then Claire whispered, I don't want a divorce. I actually laughed. Well, too damn bad, because I do. Daniel, please. She reached for my hand, but I jerked away from her touch like it burned. Think about Sophie. Think about everything we've built. Oh, don't you dare bring Sophie into this, I spat. You don't get to use her as a shield for your own betrayal. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I still love you. I stared at her in disbelief. You love me? Yes, she whispered. I let out a bitter laugh. Claire, you don't love me. You love the stability I give you. You love the safety net of our marriage. But you don't love me. That's not true, she sobbed. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. I'll be filing for divorce first thing in the morning. You can either do this the easy way, or we can take it to court. But either way? We're done. She gasped, like she hadn't actually believed I would go through with it. Like she thought she could cry, make some pretty little speech, and I'd forgive her. Not this time. Not ever. I turned away, heading upstairs to our bedroom. Daniel, please, she begged. I stopped at the foot of the stairs, looking at her one last time. You made your choice, Claire. Now you have to live with it. And with that, I walked away. Claire stood frozen at the foot of the stairs, her face streaked with tears, but I didn't care. Not anymore. I walked into our bedroom, locked the door behind me, and let out a long, shaky breath. My body was on fire with adrenaline, my hands clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. I grabbed my phone. I wasn't just going to walk away from this quietly. Matt. That bastard. I scrolled through my contacts and hovered over his name. I could feel the rage coursing through me, my thumb itching to press call. But I stopped myself. No. That wasn't good enough. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I wasn't the type to throw a punch without thinking about where it would land. I was smart. Calculated. And right now? I was about to make both of them regret ever treating me like a fool. I took a deep breath, forced my hands to steady, and started planning. The first step, gathering evidence. Before I could strike, I needed leverage. Claire wasn't getting away with this with some half-hearted apology. I wasn't going to let her weasel her way into a cushy divorce settlement, not after what she had done. I already had the hotel receipts. The GPS records. The pictures of her leaving the hotel alone. But that wasn't enough. I needed something undeniable. So I went after her phone. It wasn't easy. Claire was glued to that damn thing ever since she started her affair, but I had been paying attention. I knew her patterns. At 2 a.m., I crept out of bed and went downstairs. Claire had cried herself to sleep on the couch, exhausted from the confrontation, her phone still clutched in her hand. Carefully, quietly, I pried it from her fingers and slipped back upstairs. I had already installed a keylogger on her device a few days ago, one of the benefits of being a software engineer. It captured every single thing she typed, every password she entered. So when I pulled up her messages, I didn't even have to guess. And there it was. A text thread with Matt. Claire, tonight was amazing. I missed you. Matt, you always miss me when you go back to him. Claire, I just wish things were different. Matt, then make them different. Leave him. I scrolled up, my stomach twisting. It went back months. There were texts about me, too. Matt, is he still clueless? Claire, yeah. He's so busy being a good dad, he doesn't even notice. My breath caught in my throat. That one hit the hardest. I had been so good to her. So faithful, so present, while she was laughing behind my back with my so-called friend. I clenched my jaw. I took screenshots of everything. Sent them to my own phone. Then I put her phone back where I found it and walked away like nothing had happened. Now, I had everything I needed. The second step, letting the world know. Claire wanted to play dirty? Fine. I could play dirtier. I didn't just want her to regret what she had done, I wanted Matt to suffer, too. So I put together a package. A nice little gift. I printed out the messages. The hotel receipts. The pictures. Put them all together in an envelope, sealed it, and labeled it. For Matt's wife. Because, oh yeah, Matt wasn't just my friend. He was married. And I was about to make sure his wife knew exactly what kind of piece of shit she was married to. The delivery. The next morning, I took the envelope and drove across town to Matt's house. It was early. The sun was barely rising, the air crisp and quiet. I parked down the street and watched as his wife, Emily, came outside to grab the newspaper. Emily was nice. A sweet woman. We had all been to dinners together, barbecues, birthday parties. She had always treated Claire and me with kindness. And now, I was about to destroy her world. I stepped out of the car, walked up to her driveway, and held out the envelope. Daniel, she asked, confused. What's this? I looked her right in the eye. You need to read it. She frowned but took it. I didn't wait for her reaction, I turned and walked back to my car. As I drove away, I saw her opening it, her face going pale as she started flipping through the pages. By the time I got home, Matt was calling me. I ignored it. Then came the texts. Matt, what the hell did you do? Matt, Emily is leaving me. You bastard. Matt, you had no right. I smirked. I had every right. The third step, watching it all burn. Claire woke up an hour later, rubbing her eyes, looking like a mess. She saw me standing in the kitchen, drinking my coffee, calm as hell. Daniel, she said cautiously. I didn't say a word. Her phone buzzed. She picked it up, and I watched her face go white. Matt must have told her. Daniel, what did you do? She whispered. I set my coffee down and smiled. I made sure the truth came out. She gasped. Oh my God. Her hand shook as she tried to call Matt, but from the way she kept cursing, I guessed he wasn't answering. Matt's wife left him, I said. And now? You're next. Claire's eyes filled with panic. Wait, no, please. We can talk about this. Talk? I laughed. Like how you talked to Matt about how I was clueless. How I was too busy being a good father to notice my wife screwing my best friend. She looked like she had been slapped. I shook my head. You're pathetic. Tears welled in her eyes. I love you, Daniel. No, Claire. I grabbed my coat. You love yourself. And now? You can be alone with that. I walked out the door, slamming it behind me. And for the first time in months, I felt free. I drove aimlessly for a while, the city streets passing in a blur as I processed everything. I had done it. I had exposed them. Matt's marriage? Destroyed. Claire's carefully constructed lies? Shattered. But why didn't I feel satisfied? I pulled into an empty parking lot near a park Sophie and I used to visit when she was younger. It was a peaceful place, somewhere I could think without Claire's crying or my phone buzzing every 5 seconds from Matt's desperate texts. My mind was still racing. This was the moment most guys fantasized about when they found out their wife was cheating, the big revenge moment, the grand takedown. And yeah, I'd hit them both where it hurt. But what now? Because after all the destruction, I still had to face Claire one last time. The return home. By the time I pulled back into our driveway, the sun was starting to set. I sat there for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel, taking deep breaths. Then, finally, I stepped inside. Claire was sitting at the dining table, eyes red and swollen from crying. Her phone was beside her, face down, her hands gripping a crumpled tissue. She looked up as I entered. "Daniel," she whispered. I didn't say anything. She swallowed hard, like she was struggling to form words. "Matt called me. He told me everything you did." I sat down across from her, folding my hands. "Good." Her eyes widened. You don't feel bad?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "Feel bad?" I repeated. "Do you feel bad, Claire? About any of this?" Tears welled up again, but I wasn't about to be swayed by her pathetic attempt at playing the victim. 6 months, I continued, voice cold. 6 months, you lied to me. 6 months, you let me kiss you, sleep next to you, tell you I loved you, while you were sneaking around with him. She flinched but didn't say anything. So tell me, Claire, I said, leaning forward. At what point did you feel bad? When you checked into a hotel room? When you let him touch you? Or was it when I found out and made you face the consequences? She was shaking now. I don't know. That's right, I cut in. Because you never felt bad. You only feel bad now, because you got caught. A long silence filled the space between us. Then she whispered, I deserve that. Damn right you do. Her excuses, and my response. Claire wiped at her eyes, sniffing hard. Daniel, I was lost. I was stupid. But I need you to know, I never stopped loving you. I let out a bitter laugh. You really expect me to believe that? She reached across the table, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away. I do, she insisted. Yes, I betrayed you. I lied. I hurt you in the worst way imaginable. But what we have, our history, our family, it wasn't all a lie. Please, Daniel. Please, just tell me what I can do to fix this. I stared at her, a mix of disgust and disbelief rolling through me. You can't, I said simply. She opened her mouth, but I shook my head. You made a choice, Claire. Not once. Not twice. Over and over. And you chose him. Her face crumpled. It was a mistake. I clenched my jaw. Sleeping with him was a mistake? Or getting caught was? Silence. I stood up. It doesn't matter, I said. Because either way? It's over. Her plea for forgiveness. Claire stood too, panic flashing in her eyes. Wait. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Claire, don't do this. No, listen, she begged. I can change. We can fix this. We've been through so much together, Daniel, please, don't just throw it all away. I stared at her, feeling nothing. Throw it away? I repeated, my voice low. Claire, I'm not the one who threw it away. You did. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Please. Think about Sophie. Think about what a divorce will do to her. That one stung. Because the only thing that had been holding me back from packing my bags and walking out for good was Sophie. Our daughter. She didn't deserve this. Do you even hear yourself? I asked, yanking my arm free. You weren't thinking about Sophie when you were in a hotel bed with Matt. You weren't thinking about her when you were sneaking around, lying to me, to our family. So don't pretend you suddenly care about the damage now that you're about to lose everything. Her face crumpled, and she let out a broken sob. But I wasn't done. The terms of our separation. I crossed my arms. Here's how this is going to work. I'm filing for divorce first thing Monday morning. I already have a lawyer. I suggest you get one too. Daniel. I get Sophie, I interrupted. Full custody. Her head snapped up. Wait, what? No. You can't just. Oh, I can, I cut in. And I will. Do you really think a judge is going to side with you, Claire? A woman who spent half a year lying and cheating on her husband while he was home raising their daughter? She paled. You're not taking her from me, she whispered. Then prove you're still fit to be her mother, I shot back. Because right now? I don't trust you at all. Tears streamed down her face, but I wasn't backing down. You're free to screw around with Matt all you want, I said. But you're not dragging Sophie through the mess you made. Her lips trembled. Daniel. I don't want to lose my family. I stared at her. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you destroyed it. The final goodbye. I walked away then. Claire didn't follow me. She didn't scream. She didn't argue. She just stood there, silent and broken, as I climbed the stairs and packed a bag. I wasn't going to stay in the same house as her, not even for another night. I grabbed my essentials, then walked past her on my way out. She didn't stop me. And when I shut the door behind me, it felt like closure. Or maybe, just the beginning of something new. I stepped out into the cold night air, the weight of everything finally hitting me. The streetlights cast long shadows across the pavement, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I was alone. No wife. No marriage. Just me. I threw my bag into the back seat of my car and slid into the driver's seat, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My heart was pounding, but not from rage anymore, just exhaustion. I had spent the last few days fighting. Fighting for the truth. Fighting to keep my emotions in check. Fighting to make sure Claire felt every ounce of pain she had inflicted on me. And now, there was nothing left to fight for. I didn't know where to go. My brother, Mark, had offered me a place to stay when I first suspected something was wrong, but I hadn't told him the full story yet. I could see it now, the look of anger, of sympathy. The "I told you so" that he would never actually say but would be written all over his face. I wasn't ready for that. Instead, I drove to a cheap motel off the highway, paid in cash, and collapsed onto the bed without bothering to turn the lights on. For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel everything. The heartbreak. The betrayal. The absolute fucking devastation of knowing that the life I had built with Claire was over. And worst of all? I still loved her. I hated her. But deep down, under all the anger and disgust, there was still love buried somewhere in the wreckage. And that hurt the most. The morning after. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. For a split second, I thought it might be Claire, calling to beg for another chance. I wasn't sure if I wanted that or not. But when I checked the screen, it wasn't her. It was Sophie. I sat up, my heart twisting in my chest. I hadn't even thought about how this would affect her yet. I answered quickly, forcing my voice to be steady. Hey, sweetheart. Dad? Her voice was small, groggy. Where are you? I closed my eyes. I had to go away for a little bit, honey. But I'm coming back. I promise. There was a pause. Did you and Mom have a fight? My stomach clenched. We just needed some space. Are you getting a divorce? I exhaled slowly. We're figuring things out. Sophie was quiet for a moment, and then she said, I heard Mom crying last night. I rubbed my face, trying to push down the guilt. She's upset. But no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you, okay? Okay, she whispered. When are you coming home? I swallowed the lump in my throat. Soon. She hesitated. Can we get pancakes when you come back? That nearly broke me. Yeah, baby. We'll get pancakes. Okay. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. When the call ended, I sat there in the dim motel room, staring at the phone in my hand. Claire had broken me. But Sophie? She was the one thing in my life I had to protect. Facing the fallout. When I finally went back to the house later that morning, Claire was still there. She looked like hell. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red and puffy, still wearing the same clothes from the night before. She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. Save it. I'm just here for Sophie. Claire swallowed hard, nodding. We kept our conversation strictly about Sophie. I told her I wanted full custody. She didn't argue, whether out of guilt or because she knew she didn't stand a chance in court, I didn't know. But she asked for one thing. Please, she whispered. Let me still be a part of her life. I stared at her for a long moment. You'll always be her mother, I said finally. But that doesn't mean I trust you. She nodded, tears slipping down her face. I understand. I left it at that. Matt's downfall. I hadn't heard from Matt since his pathetic string of texts the day before. But I didn't need to. His wife, Emily, had already done most of the damage for me. Word had spread like wildfire. Emily had told everyone. Their family. Their friends. Matt's boss. And since Matt was a family man, built his whole career on the image of being a devoted husband and father? Well, that was all going straight to hell. I heard through a mutual friend that Emily had kicked him out, filed for divorce, and was taking everything. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? Moving on, or trying to. The next few weeks were weird. Claire moved out. She got her own place across town, and I let her see Sophie on the weekends. I focused on rebuilding. Rebuilding my life. Rebuilding my trust in people. Rebuilding the relationship with my daughter, making sure she knew that no matter what happened between me and Claire, I wasn't going anywhere. And slowly, the pain started to fade. The anger. The betrayal. It would never fully disappear. But it wasn't consuming me anymore. One day, months later, I found myself sitting in that same diner where Claire and I used to eat on Sundays. Alone. And I was okay with that. The waitress came by and smiled. You look like you've got a lot on your mind. I smirked. You could say that. Well, she said, pouring me a fresh cup of coffee, whatever it is, you survived it, didn't you? I thought about that. About everything I had been through. About how it had broken me. And how I had put myself back together. I met her gaze and nodded. Yeah, I said. I did. And for the first time in a long time. I actually believed it.